Hey, what's good, guys? I am back for a follow-up video to let you know what I heard when I went to the dentist for the post-op visit and what we're gonna be doing next. Welcome back for another video to Recalibrate with Nate. And in this video, I wanted to talk about what the dentist said when I went back to check on this tooth to see what's really going on. So I just wanted to update you guys to see what's up, and this is still locked up. It's still putting pressure on my nerve. I'm still dead numb right here on my lip. Jaw line and gum line is still numb. Outside, out here is like that tingly kind of feeling, like the numbing's wearing off. But it's been like this for nearly a month. So if you haven't seen the first video in this series, go back and watch that. That explains the whole story up to where I'm at right now. But I went back to the dentist, and what we did was we drilled out a filling that had failed and refilled it. And in that process, it cracked the tooth even further down into the root and leached the bacteria from the decay underneath that failed filling. And that's what started the whole chain reaction of this infection and just the abscess and everything. So thinking back, hindsight, right? Hindsight is everything. If I would have just really stuck with my guns, I wanted them to pull the tooth that day, the day that I went in with the toothache. I wanted them to pull the tooth. Dentists don't really like pulling teeth, especially molars. Most of the time they want to get you or give you a root canal. I would highly advise doing some research. Don't get a root canal, because a root canal is essentially trying to preserve a dead body part, a dead tooth. There's blood that flows into our teeth, and if that gets messed up, some sort of an infection, a root infection, and the tooth dies, it's a dead tooth. And with root canal, what they do is they go in, drill into the root, pack it with some antibiotic, substance of some sort. This is my take on it. Of course, I'm sure it's way more in-depth than this. And then they pack it and try to preserve this dead tooth. But a lot of times at the bottom of the root, we have these dental tubules that go through our jawbone, 3 miles long, supposedly, microscopic dental tubules. The bacteria never can get completely, hit with the antibiotic. And a lot of times you have some leaching of this bacteria from that dead tooth, the root canal. So highly, highly against root canals, I am personally. Pull the tooth. That's the way I feel like. Just pull the tooth, scrape the periodontal ligament out, get a bone graft put in, and that's what I'm going to be doing today. In just a couple of hours, I'm going back to the dentist, and I'm like, let's pull this tooth. It's dead. We're not gonna fix it. I'm not gonna get a root canal. And in this process, it's kind of a bummer. I've already done 2 rounds of antibiotics to where I'm at right now, so I'm gonna have to get on another round of antibiotics and possibly a pain med. Right now I'm taking Tylenol every 8 hours and ibuprofen every 8 hours, and I'm switching intervals. So it's like every 4 hours I'm taking something, like Tylenol, 4 hours later it's ibuprofen. Been doing that this whole time to just try to keep the pain and just the uncomfortable feeling from the tooth kind of like at bay. So I gotta go in, get the tooth pulled. They're gonna scrape the ligament, which it's all a part of pulling the tooth. They pull the tooth, they do a quick scrape, and then they're gonna put in a bone graft. Now you can get 2 different kinds of bone graft. You can get bovine bone from a cow, or you can get cadaver bone from a human. And that's kind of weird, right? Just the whole concept, but I'm going to be choosing cadaver. I always choose cadaver because being vegan, I don't wanna put, cow bone into my body. Either one's fine, our body accepts both. But what that does is that gives your body, if you've got, say like, here's the tooth and you get that tooth pulled, here's your other, say like there's the space in between the 2 teeth you have, right? And if nothing, there's a hole in your jaw from that tooth being gone. So a bone graft is crushed up bone that they put into the hole and they stitch you closed, and that heals for a good 4 to 6 months. And what that does is it gives your jawbone some material to work with to rebuild that jaw, so that way your teeth don't float together. Because if you don't get a bone graft, you have a hole in your jaw and those teeth can kind of float together over time. So it's really important to get the bone graft done if you don't want to get an implant. But then what you do afterwards, and this is what I'm going to be doing. I'm getting the tooth extracted today, getting the bone graft done. I'll heal up for about 5 months, give or take. And then what we'll do is we'll go in, drill in between the very back molar and the one that's in front of, because that's the tooth I need to pull. And we will set the implant post. Still, doing a little research of where I'm gonna go to get the implant done. And then that post, they put a healing cap over it, because the post that they're gonna be putting in is essentially hollow, so they can screw and attach the actual tooth into that post. So that post that's into your jawbone, they put a cap on top, and that's gonna have to heal for 6 months. So we're talking 5 months, heal before I can get the post put in. That's another 6 months of heal. So it's essentially a year before I go back in and I'm able to get the actual tooth inserted into that post, which that can be a procedure in itself as well. And I will, since I've already started this and I have, multiple people reaching out, you guys reaching out, and I really, really appreciate you guys sending all your prayers and your love and your strength and your wishes, because it really, really does feel good. And, anytime we have anything going on with our body, it's not a fun time. It's scary. I'm a bit, anxious today to have this done. I've had 3 teeth pulled already. So I know the process. I have 3 implants. I know the process, but it's still, it's not a fun ride. But I will continue with these videos in this series to let you know how I'm doing, and then the whole process, right? Like, we won't get the last video out until next year when I have the actual tooth. My other implants that I have are amazing. Aside from just a different kind of gap in between the tooth, because it's not my natural tooth that is grown. And, an implant is not a living part like our teeth, because our teeth are alive. They actually are slightly spongy and there's blood flowing through them. An implant, you don't have any of that. So it's a rock hard, like a glass porcelain. I'm not sure what they actually use. I should research that, of what they make the tooth out of. It's hard. And I have an implant above, so on my top jaw, I've got an implant that's pretty much almost directly above this tooth that I'm having problems with. And this tooth that I'm having problems with, I've had problems with since I was a kid. You get a cavity, they fill it, you grow up a little bit, you gotta get it refilled because the tooth is actually like growing a little bit too. So I've had it filled twice, both times with amalgam filling. Amalgam is the mercury kind of silver looking filling. And then I started to kind of, get more into health and wellness and gut health, and learned about the off-gassing of this aluminum. It's a whole controversial topic in itself, but I have a biased view that those studies are real. There's people within the dental association that are really fighting to remove amalgam completely because of what it does to our brain, what it does to our gut microbiome, because of the off-gassing of these heavy metals, right? Aluminum, there's zinc, there's, tin and all kinds of silly stuff that they put in those amalgam fillings. And they know that, if it's safe for us to be putting in our head, you would think that they wouldn't be putting the extra that they don't use to fill the filling into a biohazard bag. You're not supposed to touch it. Like, if it's safe for us, we should be able to put it in our mouth, touch our tongue. But, we're packing it into our teeth. So anyways, I had the amalgam filling in. And once I learned about that, I was like, I want to get these amalgams removed. I don't really like the idea of that, possibly increasing my chances of having different issues down the road. I would just rather have those removed. So I went to a biological, holistic dentist to have them removed properly. That was an intense procedure. But they had the proper filters. They were wearing masks. I was on oxygen, and they had the massive, 9-stage filter vacuum, like vacuuming up any vapors for them, drilling out those. So this tooth has had a lot of work done. So this was essentially my 4th time having this tooth drilled on. And the dentist did say, he's like, when I got in there, I could see there was a little decay underneath the old filling. So there it is. He drilled, it cracked, a little bit of that decay, tiny, microscopic bits of bacteria got into the root, into the tubule, caused this infection. The body does what it does, tries to contain the infection. There goes the abscess, right? So it all kind of makes sense, but I'm really frustrated in a way, because I knew within myself that this tooth was going to be the next tooth that I was going to have problems with, because I've already had some sensitivity on it a couple times. I'm like, this is kind of sending me a little bit of a notification, not necessarily a toothache, but I know this is going to be the next tooth that is going to give me some sort of issue. So I really should have stuck with my guns, and I should have just said, please, I don't want anything done to this tooth aside from it being removed. If I would have had it pulled that day, I wouldn't have had to go through the entire process that I had to go through, and you know, have emergency surgery and stay in the hospital for 3 nights. And you know, I went to the ER 4 times for this because the Sedona ER just kept sending me home, and you know, there wasn't really much they could do. They're just like, you just have to wait for the antibiotics to do their thing, and it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And I was like, I'm scared it's gonna like close off my airway because it was so swollen all the way over. Like, you know, if you feel your trachea here, your jaw or whatever, it was swollen all the way over. Like, I'm like feeling it. And I was like putting my hand, like, I'm like, there's where it stops. And I'm putting it up on my cheek. It was all the way up here. I had this massive swelling, like from here to here. And I was like, I was getting a little worried because if it closes off your airway, then you have to get a tracheotomy. They got to cut a hole in your throat so you can breathe. I mean, you're being mercy flighted in a helicopter to a hospital that can do this kind of thing. And then, you know, of course, like whatever it might be, $100,000 for all that. I was kind of freaking out, you know, because I mean, and then, you know, of course, an infection can go to your heart, you can become septic. There's all kinds of different things that can happen. So dental issues or body issues in general are nothing to mess around with, but dental issues are nothing to mess around with because that infection is so close to your brain, and it can also get into your bloodstream, go to your heart. There's a lot of things that can go south real quick. So if you have some kind of a dental issue that you've been putting off, you know, I would highly advise for you guys to, like, you know, do a little research and look into what can be done. Like if you've been putting off knowing you need a tooth pulled, like just, you know, my suggestion is to take care of it now. You know, that's the thing. Like, and I ought to have just really fought that day and said, no, look, I don't want you to drill on this tooth anymore. It's already been drilled on multiple times. And he even said, yeah, when I was drilling, he's like, it's a good thing we did fill it. And we did this because I saw it, it was cracking. And I should have, thinking about it back now, hindsight, right? I should have said, let's take another x-ray and see how it looks now that you did the drill and refill. Possibly we've been able to see the crack because when I went for the post-op, they could see the crack. Right? So that drilling out the old filling made a micro fracture down into the root, and then that just leached the bacteria back in, just that quick, right? It's so interesting how it works out. Hindsight though. So they don't pull teeth if you have an infection, so I would have had to do antibiotics and let the infection die down before I could even get the tooth pulled anyways. But the tooth is getting pulled today. The infection is definitely died down, but I'm still kind of locked up. I can't open my jaw all the way. It's still tight and I'm still numb. So fingers crossed, hopefully getting this tooth out will help that situation. Anyways, yeah, that's all I've got for you guys right now. You know, I did heal up really well. This is where the drain tube was. And I didn't put a picture in the last video of the tube. But the tube was like 10 inches long that they pulled out. I don't know where it went, how it kinked up in there, but I'm like, a 10-inch tube, how the heck? I should have really asked them. I was like in the hospital, I'm kind of out of it. They did it early in the morning, like 6 a.m. And, you know, I just didn't think to ask, like really ask them, like, how did that tube, where did the tube go? Because like it was a 10-inch tube. It was crazy. So really traumatic experience in a lot of ways to have anything done to our bodies, especially when you're being put under anesthesia and you're not awake. Like that's a traumatic experience. Yeah, it's, you know, it was wild. Like when I got home that night, I said in the last video, man, I just went into the hot tub as soon as we got home. I just wanted to go in the hot tub and like lay out in the sun for a little while. And I just broke down. I just couldn't stop crying. It was so insane, like everything released right then. You know, there was just so much going on. And of course, you know, even though you're asleep, everything that's happening to you, whatever it might be, if you're asleep or you're unconscious, it's being stored somewhere, you know? So very traumatic experience. And for those of you who are having some kind of a dental issue right now, or have had dental work done, or have had to have teeth pulled and you have dentures and different things like this, it's really, really hard in a lot of ways because it changes the way that we eat and it changes the foods that we can eat. Since I've had my implants, I didn't finish my story, my teeth they're not nice and tight together the way that they were. So I do get food in between the teeth, and kind of like the way the implant is, your gum doesn't grow around that tooth. The ligament, the periodontal ligament's gone, right? It's not growing around that tooth. So when you floss, you're flossing, like if this is the post of the tooth and this is the gum, right? You've got food that can get down in here. You've got to floss around that post. So you're getting in deep. And I floss every single time I'm done eating every single meal since I've had my implants. Now, I didn't floss very good when I was a kid, and like they've said our whole life, like flossing is almost more important than brushing. And it is 100% true, because food particles can get down in between the gum and the tooth, and that can cause different root rot. And of course you can get cavities, right? And if you don't get your cavities drilled, especially if they're tiny, a teeny tiny cavity, take care of it, because that cavity is essentially like decay in the tooth, and it's gonna get bigger and bigger and bigger, and pretty soon you're gonna have to have a big filling. If you can nick those little tiny cavities in the bud right now, ask, just be like, hey, I want the white filling. You don't have to know the names, you could research, but just say, I want the white filling. Don't give me that metal filling. Then you don't get the amalgam, you get the white filling, it looks nice on your teeth. But anyways, yeah, so what I've been eating has been a little bit hard in a way. So I've been doing smoothies and soups and banana and ice cream, and Lissa's been making these mad awesome salads, and I'm just jonesing for these salads. I've been having, I did have some instant potatoes, and I've had some chili as well, just some Amy's canned chili, kind of want something dense, and I'm just like, try to get some more calories in, something a little bit different than just everything being liquid. So she made a salad, and I was like, let's just toss it in the food processor and just like, tut, tut, tut. So she made a salad in the food processor, didn't like shred it too much, but it was like a really finely chopped slaw almost. And it was so easy to eat. I could chew on the one side. And it's interesting because we're chewing our food, we're going from side to side. If you're only chewing on one side, that side can get fatigued. And I'm feeling like fatigue on this side because it's always the one that's chewing, trying to keep food off this side. And of course, getting the tooth extracted is gonna change up everything again, because you can't really chew solids, especially when you're being stitched. Like, it's days that you're swishing with salt water to help heal that incision. And it'll be a lot of liquid stuff again here soon today. But it made me think. Liz and I were both on a walk, and I was like, man, I should write a book talking about the different things that we could eat after a dental procedure, or like leading up to a dental procedure, because it's really important to have the proper nutrients and the proper building blocks that your body can use to heal itself and to stay healthy through the process. So that'll be something that I'll be working on. And because I, since this, I've had a lot of people message both me and Lissa saying like, oh my gosh, like I've had, dental problems. I've got, a couple of bridges, and a bridge is where you have two teeth that they grind down a little bit and they glue a fake tooth on for in the middle. Sometimes there's like a denture where they clip onto the two good teeth. Lots of different ways that we can like replace a tooth, so to speak. I personally feel that the implant is like the best way to go. It's 30 years that they'll last up to, and then you can even get the tooth out, replace it with another tooth, as long as they set that post right. And that's why it's really important to heal up, make that bone graft, heal up properly a good 4 to 6 months, 5 months. Let the jawbone heal nice and strong before you go drilling into it. All these things are they're kind of crazy. And yeah, so another thing that I wanted to say too is, if you're looking for recipes, to tap in, click the link in the bio. We've got, or the caption, the description, 40% off all of our recipe books right now. And I've got my smoothie solution book in there, which I've been tapping into heavily. It's a 350 page book, multiple recipes, over 40 recipes, and a lot of information about different fruits and vegetables to use in your smoothies to help with different things. So that's really been helpful. Lissa has her soups, stews, and chilies book, and that's been a really good one to tap into as well, just so you don't get bored of making the same thing. So if you are going through some sort of a dental, crisis, so to speak, those books are really going to be handy, as well as the Nice Cream book. I've got the Inside Scoop, or the Wholesome Scoops. Wholesome Scoops is more curated for the Ninja Creamy, and the Inside Scoop is more curated for like blending it in a Ninja or a Vitamix, kind of more soft serve for the Inside Scoop, as opposed to hard ice cream with the Wholesome Scoops. So there's 2 Nice Cream books, and the soups and the smoothies, and you should be set. And I'm tapping into those every single day right now. So anyways, that's the update for this video. We'll do another one here in another couple days. I'll let you know how the procedure went and what they said. And yeah, that's that. Hope you guys are doing great out there. We love you, and we'll see you on the next one.